So hello everyone, we are back with another interview related question and answer series. And today we are exploring more towards product owner, if I'm not wrong. But I think the product owner, Scrum Master, these things quite overlap because we are talking about the process and Scrum and how do we do delivery. So let's explore. We have a volunteer who is willing to talk about her questions. So maybe you want to give a little brief and then we get started with your questions.
Hi, Saket. Yeah. So I have around 15 years of experience and I have worked like last 10 years as technical product owner. And I am looking to get back into the workforce after a career break. And I have a list of questions that I would like to review with you and get like the best
Perfect.
answer.
Let's get started. Yeah, yeah.
Sure. So the first question I have is, how would you handle requirement changes mid-sprint? Or in different way, like how do you handle scope creep? They're both related, but so I wanted to know like what is the best way to approach this answer.
So see, this is the answer we need to answer differently for Scrum Master role and differently for product owner role.
Okay.
Because when we are thinking as a Scrum Master role, it might be the product owner is doing it, and you probably need to convince the product owner not to do these kind of things very frequently. When
Okay.
you are doing it as a product owner, then you need to understand that some of your stakeholders might be asking for it, and you need to probably explain them that this is something which is counterproductive for my team. Yeah, that's one possibility. And
Mhm.
second, you need to bring some kind of readiness in your team to accommodate some kind of these changes whenever needed. Yeah, so that
Right.
becomes a whole different approach. Now you can say that usually I see resistance from my team whenever we bring the idea of any change during the sprint. So you can start with that if you are doing a product owner interview.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
do understand that this is obvious because we have spent time talking about the requirement. We did a fine grained planning. And now if we are changing something, then it is derailing the short-term plan, the small 2 weeks plan which we have prepared. It is disturbing that plan. And that's why
Right.
people are reacting to it. I also show flexibility, and I'm aware that Scrum tells us to remain flexible throughout the sprint. The user stories are emerging. We can add acceptance criteria any point in time during the sprint as well. So I educate my team members about it. And then I also remind that it is okay to change inside the sprint till the time it is not deviating from the sprint goal. So we usually write the sprint goal in a manner so it gives us some amount of flexibility during the sprint. And then we
Right.
find out together if we can accommodate that change without changing the sprint goal, we go ahead with it. If we have
Right.
a situation where we see that it is impacting the sprint goal, I usually keep it as a next sprint objective. So I keep there. Along with the stakeholder also, I usually work with them and avoid committing anything and a need for changing things which are mid-sprint. I educate them that we are going to do a backlog refinement and next iteration planning is expected to start next week only. So probably we can talk about that. So by default, I work there. But there could be
Mhm.
some situations where I need to take a call. And in those cases, practically we end up missing our sprint goal, but we take those
Mhm.
decisions collaboratively. And I want to make sure such kind of events are not happening very frequently because I am aware that it creates a rework. We may end up not doing something which we have planned well. And then
Mhm.
when in the next week, when we are going to plan it again, we need to do extra effort. So I'm aware, but sometime I need to pay the cost of doing it. In worst case situation, we may end up doing replanning. That's how the Scrum allows us. Product owner
Mhm.
can cancel the sprint and you can start it again. But you probably don't go into theoretical canceling the sprint and all. You can say in worst case, we may do a full replanning of the sprint. But in general, we try to avoid such kind of events. Once in a while, I may end up doing that.
Yeah, because in some cases, like I mean, it shouldn't happen, but sometimes the requirement itself change. So we do not want to we do not want to continue working on something. I mean, we definitely will not work on something which is not even required now. Let's say
Perfect,
the
perfect.
requirement itself
Yes,
change,
yes,
right? Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So you educate. So you start with showing the explanation and understanding that in general, this is something which might results into rework. Yeah. So you start with that. You
Yeah.
appreciate there is a case, but at the same time, you also appreciate that there are situations where we need to do things differently. And I also understand that Scrum allows us to do it as per the sprint goals, and we write the sprint goal in such a manner which allows us some kind of fine graining as we go along. And I repeat again, saying that user stories are negotiable. So we know that user story can be negotiated till the time it is not done. So adding acceptance criteria to a user story is perfectly okay, provided it is not changing the sprint goal. Yeah, so that's how we balance the answer.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. And same goes for scope creep, I'll also write.
Yeah, so see, the word scope creep or gold platings are not much relevant in our agile way of working. They
Okay.
used to be very relevant in our predictive way of working, but in case the
Mm-hmm.
person asked, so you can say that
Mm-hmm.
I understand in when we were using predictive way of working, we wanted to make sure that once we have an agreement on scope, we don't deviate from it. An
Right.
uncontrolled expansion of the scope, if done by the team, it is called gold plating. If done by the stakeholders, it is called scope creep. So it is an
Okay.
uncontrolled expansion of the scope. But since in the agile way of working, we are following complete transparency, that's the decisions are made in a backlog refinement. We are continuously doing iteration review. We are continuously working together. So
Mm-hmm.
uncontrolled change in the requirement is not going to happen. So we can say,
Okay.
yes, we change priorities, we change our
Mm-hmm.
direction, we do it for the betterment of our project objective, but they are not
Right.
happening in a hidden manner. They are happening always in transparency and consultation with our key stakeholders. And
Okay.
product owner is a representative of key stakeholder. I am always aware. So and I also ensure as a product owner that I work with my stakeholders so that
Mm-hmm.
my understanding of the requirement and my stakeholders' understanding of the requirement remains consistent. We have a clear working agreement. Sometimes they can't attend the iteration review. I go and show them the demo so that they are aware what we are doing. During the sprint also, as soon as user story gets over, I try to work with those stakeholders and show them this is what we have done and this is what we are planning to do. So we manage the alignment. Yeah, that's the goal, alignment by way of continuous interaction. And I, as a product owner, do it by way of aligning very frequently with the development team. So I keep reminding them not to work on something which is not needed, because I'm looking at thing on a story by story basis. And at the same time,
Yeah.
as soon as the story gets over, I go to my stakeholders and I work with them story by story basis. And that's how I make sure that we are not doing something which is not needed by our stakeholders.
Okay. Sure. Thank you. Okay. So I'll move to the next question. So I was asked, like, let's say you need to design a login page for a website. So come up with the user stories. So now here the challenge is the let's say you create a login page and we want to start with new users, like in logical sense steps, right? So a new user comes in, he should be able to sign up, for example. So but before that, lot of technical things need to be done, like database has to be, like database changes have to be done, and APIs, if there are any APIs to update the database from the UI. So those kind of changes, how do you handle? Because then it becomes a big user story. If I just talk about, okay, a user should, as a user, I want to be able to enter my account details so that I have a account and I can access the website. So
Perfect.
that is like one kind of user story, right? But internally, some things I used to think is like tasks, like database table creation and API and all, but that becomes too big that it cannot be handled in one sprint.
So what you do, you split the story.
Yeah.
So in a
Okay.
simple word, the definition of user story is it should be user oriented. It should give a stakeholder value. It should be
Right.
owned by the people who understand the requirement, and it should
Mm-hmm.
be small enough so that it gets done in a one
Sprint.
sprint duration, 2 weeks time or whatever the sprint duration. Now,
Correct.
see,
Yeah.
the things that it should give a user value, it should be stakeholder value and all is
Mm-hmm.
relevant for the end users. But
Yeah.
it should be done within a 2 weeks. It's more about your Scrum team issue. Yeah, it is not the stakeholders issue. They probably don't understand or may not appreciate that also. For them,
Uh-huh.
requirement is requirement. So
Correct.
as a product owner, I need to first start with saying that, yes, we need to understand the requirement. And sometime my
Mm-hmm.
stakeholder may want to give me a big requirement. I understand that. I appreciate that. Probably they may want to talk about the login page in a one go itself. I will capture that. I will discuss it. I will do a research about it. But at the same
Okay.
time, I also understand that if we develop the big requirement in a one go, then we will
Mhm.
delay the feedback process. Then for 1 month, 1.5 months, we don't know how which portion is working. And if you want to do some adjustment, if you want to do incremental reviews, incremental demo, that will not be possible. So I understand in the agile way of working, it is recommended to create the requirement in such a small piece. So it gets done in a 2 weeks time so that we can take incremental feedback. So I show the understanding of the utility around it. Now then I
Okay.
say that, okay, how do we move forward? We do have technical readiness work. Sometime in a safe language, we call them enabler. In general language, we call them technical stories. It's not
Mm-hmm.
necessary that we always start with the user story. We may need to do some foundational work. There is a possibility in a first sprint, we are only doing foundational work and some kind of user story. So we need to figure it out depending upon the stage we are in, the reusable components available to us. Maybe this login page has been worked upon 100 times in my organization, and we have a lot of ready-made component. We just need to pick it up and finish it. Yeah, because it's nothing new. Each
Right.
application has a login page. So I would say that it's a 1-day job, 2-day job, maybe most likely. But if it is
Mm-hmm.
not, we are thinking that organization is new, technology is new, people are new, and you never created a login page, then probably you need to understand and finally find out which technology we are using. Or, so that could be a one decision point. Then we may find out the overall approach of technology, the framework, the APIs, the
Right.
template, the architecture we use. And once that
Yeah.
is done, then we focus on the requirement. Yeah. So that's some amount of readiness is needed, but it depends upon the context. Maybe in my company, all these things are ready
Mhm.
made, so I don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
Now, when I
Sure.
particularly focusing on login requirement, then I need to
Uh-huh.
focus on various personas of using. You can say registered user,
Okay.
frequently visiting user, someone who wants to use the application on the mobile phone, someone who wants to log in using mobile number and OTP, someone who
Okay.
wants to log in using Google ID, someone who wants to log in using registered email ID and password, someone is putting wrong user ID, wrong user password, someone is putting wrong password 3 times. All these are user story. Someone forget password, someone is doing some kind of like using the login page from a insecure internet space where we want to restrict him to use it. That's also possible. Or we have a suspicious login. We suspect based on some security criteria that this could be a wrong or a suspicious login. All these could be user story for login page. Yeah, different user stories, and ultimately everything comes together will give you the login page.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I think that answers. Okay. So moving to the next question I have is, what is the most important part of a product owner's job?
So from
So,
a Scrum perspective, product
yeah,
backlog management is the most important task.
right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you need to make sure the product backlog is well understood. So keeping the, if you are just talking to someone who's a theory guy and who likes these words, so you
Mhm.
can say keeping the healthy product backlog is a primary responsibility of a product owner. And the healthy product backlog can be defined with the acronym DEEP, because they detail appropriately, estimated, emergent, and prioritized. So I need to
Okay.
make sure that product backlogs are appropriately detailed, items on the top are refined well, the items on the bottom are maybe a high level defined. We need to ensure the right people are involved when we are doing prioritization. We need to ensure that we have a perspective of risk, timelines, estimation, dependencies considered when we are doing refinement. And for that purpose, I work closely with my development team, and I need to make sure that items should be ready whenever we are approaching the next sprint. So I talk about all those things: stakeholder alignment, business value delivery. Overall, the success of a product owner is the product succeed, yeah, in a simple word. So
Mhm.
my accountability is producing business outcome from the product, starting from there. And I perform that accountability by way of putting the right things into the product backlog and
Okay.
prioritizing it in a right manner so that my development team can give me a right requirement which can make business objectives.
Okay. And like, is it also good to add, like, because a lot of times the product vision has to be conveyed to the dev team also, right? Like, and they should also be on the same page and vision, and we need to have a buy-in from them also. So is it good to mention that also, like getting an
Yeah,
alignment throughout the thing? That is also equally important job, because if they are not aware of why we are doing it, like the why part.
perfect. Yeah, yeah. So you
Yeah.
can say that I have an outcome and I ensure my stakeholders, development team member clearly have an understanding of outcome. Their effort is aligned towards it, and I do it by way of communicating what we want and ensuring the product backlog reflects the
Mm.
direction towards that particular alignment. And then
Oh,
if the person has willingness to listen more, then you can say I do it by way of keep communicating the product visions again and again. I make sure my team member has a clear understanding of user persona. I participate in a backlog refinement and make sure that they have a fine-grained understanding of user stories in advance. I work with them on a day-to-day basis to verify, validate user stories in advance. We provide feedback to them. We ensure that iteration review has a stakeholder participation. I work one-on-one with the stakeholder. So that could be as much detail you can get into, but you start with the overall understanding of business outcome and working with the respective people, team and stakeholder to achieve those business outcome with the help of
Okay.
product backlog.
Okay. Okay. So the main most important is like maintaining a good product backlog. That's
So
what
that's
I
an
should try.
instrument. That's an instrument, and
Okay.
that's an instrument you use to perform your job. Yeah, and
Right.
your job is to produce business result. So company is spending money, they should get return
Right.
out of your work.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct. Yeah.
and in order to achieve that, the instrument you use is product backlog, refinement of it, explanation of it, prioritization of it, ensuring alignment between stakeholder and team member around it. That's how you
Okay.
go. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. It's kind of related to this question, but it's worded differently. Like talk about a typical day in a product owner's life
So
and how to distribute your time on various activities.
So you can create some of the pattern days for
Mm.
yourself, and
Yeah.
that can help. It is basically trying to understand that is this person has a real experience of product ownership, because it's an open-ended question. And whatever
Right.
you speak reflects that what you believe is a job of a product owner, and you have an experience about it. Yeah, that's something which get reflected in your conversation. So you can
Okay.
say that there are some special days like iteration planning meetings, sprint planning meetings, or backlog refinement meetings and iteration review meetings. These are special days. You have a special type of activities there. So you can probably keep an answer ready for what do you do when the day was filled of iteration planning meeting? What do you do when the day had a backlog refinement meeting planned? And what do you
Okay.
do when you have a iteration review happening during the day? Yeah. So that could be 3 typical days, because in
Okay.
the iteration review you may need to work, you need to create minutes of the meetings, you need to capture the stakeholder feedbacks, so there could be a little,
Right.
you need to have a little bit of those administrative jobs. In a iteration planning meeting, you probably need to come up with preparing the draft iteration goal, identifying tentative user stories, and going with the preparation that this is what I want to do, and I focus on explaining the business priority, business objective of these user stories, and then I collaborate with the team to work with the iteration planning. And once the iteration planning is over, then I may communicate to the stakeholder which story was planned and what we have probably postponed it. So I need to make sure that the respective stakeholders are aware what is coming in the iteration planning meeting. So that could be a typical day there.
Okay.
Non-iteration planning or non-critical
Non.
days, yeah, you can
Right.
have typical activities like I need to work on some of the dependencies to understand the user stories. So overall
Okay.
understanding of user story refinement kind of job will be there. Working
Yeah.
with customer feedbacks, analyzing customer feedbacks. If you have already made a release happen, then that
Okay.
will be a good job for you, because you are continuously analyzing which feature is getting used, which feature is not getting used, what kind of issues our production team is facing. So good amount of maybe checking the matrices of your product, which shows
Okay.
the usage pattern, time spent by the user. So that could be a day-to-day activity. Along with
Okay.
that, you may want to do some market research. You may want to check the competitor products and analyzing which particular feature is working more for them, which feature is working less for them, which gives you a feedback for your upcoming backlog priorities. You may have issues related to multiple stakeholders may have a different priorities. So you might end up spending time negotiating and explaining to them. You may end up doing one-on-one meeting with the stakeholder to show some of the work which has been done. So this could be external focus thing. Then you can focus
Mm.
on internal focus things. Maybe the team member comes to you and they are confused about a user story. They want to change the acceptance
Right.
criteria. So those could be
Okay.
internal focus things, clarifying the acceptance criteria to them.
Okay.
Maybe working with another product owner if you want to put that
Yeah.
situation in place. But you need to be very clear, if
Cross-functional.
you are putting that, then you need to have a
Mm.
whole story. You can say, I
Okay.
work with the another product owner, then they may double click on it and what do you do with that other product owner? So you probably need to
Right.
pick up these ideas. So
Right.
all these ideas are possible candidate. You need to pick
Yeah.
up the one which can fits into your project description or work description, and you can
Okay.
put some names around them that, usually I talk to this guy, this guy, this guy, because you
Okay.
never know, it could be an opening question and the interviewer
Right.
want to get into the details. Okay, tell me who are the people you go and give a one-on-one demo, and why they can't attend in iteration review, why you have to give a one-on-one demo. and what kind of things discussed during one-on-one demo. So there is a possibility whatever you speak may go to second and third level. So you need to have a clear
Okay.
story about it.
Okay, fine. Yeah. So like one is like around the sprint ceremonies, highlighting that, like whatever days are there. And then I can say like the depending on different phases of the project, like because at one point of time I could be handling multiple projects, right? That might be running in different, like some could be like just beginning to pick up and in concept phase, some could be in testing. So like that.
So that will be a little tricky because if you are
Mm-hmm.
primarily focusing on product owner role,
Uh-huh.
then working on multiple initiative is not necessarily is always the
Mm-hmm.
case. But if you are focusing on like a project management or a Scrum Master kind of role or a business analyst kind of role, then there is a
Okay.
probability that you might be involved in more than one initiative. Yeah. Because the product owner role is more associated with working with the market, working with the end user, working with the business success of it. So it's pretty much engaged role, and it
Mm-hmm.
requires deep understanding of that particular product. So if you
Oh,
want to bring a multi-project environment, then if they're related, then it's a separate case. For example, you are creating a one e-commerce website and there is a customer relationship module and there are various modules, but there are multiple teams, but product is same. The website is ultimately the same. Then it is still okay. Yeah, it is still probably you can make a story. But if you talk about that, we have a one client where I'm making an e-commerce website and I have another client where we are making phone app for workforce management, then they will get a feeling that you are working as a business analyst or working as a project manager or a scrum master, not as a product owner.
okay. Yeah, because in my last role, it was technical product owners, but the product was same, but they were different initiatives, like to the same product, different changes were being done.
That is okay. Yeah, that much is okay. You can say that I have a multiple agile teams which are working on same product line and I need to take care of all of them. Then you can
Yeah,
focus on that multi stakeholder interaction. And because overall the user persona is same, the business results are same, the overall
yeah.
direction is same. You just need to coordinate with multiple agile teams so that they have a alignment towards the requirement. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then how do you distribute your time on various activities? So I think this is kind of we answered it, but
Yeah.
like
So
I put
probably
percentage
the
wise.
little conscious effort you need to do is that you need to create a bucket for external and internal activity. Yeah,
Okay.
because that
Okay.
might be the another thing they may want to capture. Is
Okay.
this guy facing more external facing role? Because there are people who end up doing a lot of external work,
Right.
less internal teamwork. And
Mhm.
reverse is also possible. There could be a one product owner who spend maximum time internal, and there could be someone else, maybe called product manager or called something else, who is doing
Right.
external job. And this else gives you the requirement, and then you work from there onward. So
Correct.
the story, the way you are presenting, you need to be clear. I want to become internal focused, or I want to become external focused, or I need to demonstrate activity in both the direction. So that much planning and work distribution or activity distribution, I think you need to make based on your
Oh,
project description. Yeah.
sure. Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. So I'll go to the next question. If during a sprint demo, I mean, you did as per the user stories, your development was done as per the user stories, but during the demo, the stakeholders are not very happy. So will you consider that sprint successful or not? So, I mean, in my role, we used to always get whatever user stories we're going to work on. They used to be signed off by the stakeholders. Okay, this is what we're going to work on. If there are any UX wireframes, those also were like kind of reviewed. So that is something used to happen at my previous in company. So how should we answer that? Like, if the stakeholders are not happy during the demo, is that sprint should we consider that sprint successful or not?
So we can say that depending upon the context, we need to define sprint success or failure criteria.
Mm-hmm.
Usually the explanation of success failure comes based on are we meeting the sprint goal or not meeting the sprint goal. Even after
Mm-hmm.
meeting the sprint goal, there could be some stakeholders which are not happy.
Right.
So that is a possibility. Or even if we meet a 50% of sprint goals, there could be a stakeholders which are very happy. So there is a
Mm-hmm.
possibility. But at the same
Right.
time, as a product owner role, I
Mm-hmm.
definitely consider for myself it was not a success. Yeah, maybe the team will define their success as per the sprint goal or not. But my
Okay.
role is primarily associated with alignment in and managing stakeholder expectation. I should be working with them proactively in advance. I should have a better understanding of their need and expectation. And it's a big
Okay.
retrospective point for me, at least as a product owner, to make sure that such kind of misalignment should be removed. And I make sure success failure, it could be having political reasons, it may have a matrices and all, but this is
Mm-hmm.
an issue. This is an issue which we want to talk. We want to talk after flagging it is a failure, or we want to talk about it after flagging it as a partial success or success. That depends upon my organization processes. Usually you can say that you have a processes which are more sprint goal alignment, and there is some checklist. If that checklist shows that goal alignment has been met, then we mark it success, else we mark it partial success. So you can represent that way. But
Okay.
overall, if the stakeholder satisfaction is not coming, then we need to explore and fix that problem, because whatever we call it, it's not healthy, and it's a critical problem for me as a product owner. You can give
Okay.
a reference of your some of the success criteria, or
Mm.
hypothetically think of maybe 5 questions we ask at the end of a sprint, which help us in saying, so have we met the sprint goal? Yes and no question. And for that, we ask stakeholders saying that
Mhm.
what, so we take a vote and ask people simple yes and no question. Have you met the sprint goal? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And if we find
Okay.
majority of the stakeholders says yes, we consider it met it. The people who consider it no, we want to listen to their opinion. If their
Right.
opinion really matters, and then we may want to agree to no. So we can say it's a simple yes no question for us. But
Okay.
there could be a people who may say that yes, you have met it, but we are not
Mm-hmm.
happy, then we will call it as a success. Sprint goal has been met.
Okay. And so, like, let's say you said, right, like it's a point of for us to go back and look why they're not happy, right? Some misalignment has been done. So, how to address that in future? Let's say that this happened.
Retrospective meeting. So it is
Okay.
very difficult to predict how, because we need to understand what were the underlying reason behind it. So
Okay.
only after
Mm-hmm.
knowing the reason, we probably can resolve it. But in case the interviewer asks, you can say in my
Mm-hmm.
previous cases, once it has happened, and then you can
Mm-hmm.
talk about that we started having uh, during the week interaction with the stakeholder. Some
Yeah.
stakeholder I started sending video clips about as the user stories
Okay.
gets over. So I started
Okay.
working on it, and I also spend more time in understanding domain and their problem, because it happened in the initial stage where my mindset and stakeholder mindset was not aligned. So I did my
Okay.
self learning to make sure that my mindset is aligned. It may also
Mm-hmm.
go reverse, that we also realize the stakeholders were comparing something else. They might be comparing Instagram, and we are doing something on say workforce management. So we need to make them aware that these applications are very different. Don't expect those kind of things here. So it may be reverse, that we manage the stakeholder by way of educating them. So it could be
Okay.
me educating stakeholder. It could be I getting educated from the stakeholders, so that we have a common mindset. That's the one thing we usually do. And then looking for more continuous interactions, maybe synchronous interaction where I go and talk to them, or maybe asynchronous interaction where they have an access to some of the pages where we are working, we are designing things so they can see it. Maybe we are putting some videos and other material for asynchronous interaction. So more collaboration and
Mm-hmm.
alignment on mindset.
Okay. Thank you. So another question is like, what metrics or KPIs do you feel are important for a product owner to track?
So usually the product owners
Mm-hmm.
focus area will be outcome and predictability. These are the two matrices which they want to focus on. So
Okay.
starting with the previous conversation, what is the role of a product owner? What is the key accountability of a product owner? So my accountability is that we meet the business objective. So
Right.
I need to have some business outcome related matrices. Now,
Okay.
those outcome related matrices, if your product is not yet live, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
then they could be survey based, feedback based. Like at the end of an iteration, we take a survey from the stakeholder and we check their satisfaction level. That could be your metrics, and we can say that we want to have a high satisfaction level. If the product is live, if you have made some releases, then your problem is relatively sorted, because you have a factual data. So you look at the customer spending time on a particular application. So say customer engagement level, the amount of interaction they are doing, the type of application, the time spent on the application is a critical matrix. The number of
Mm-hmm.
purchases they are making, the conversion rate, depending upon type of application, those kind
Application.
of
Yeah.
matrices are always good. Yeah. The
Okay.
another type of matrices could be about predictability. So how well we can predict the roadmap, how well we can predict the release plan, and how well we can achieve our milestone goals. Because as a product owner, I am also responsible for identifying the release scope and working with the team to do a release level forecast. So it is also creating trust in my stakeholder. So if I can predict the upcoming milestones and we can meet them frequently, so we can say we can track the deviations from our commitments. So if we commit something as a release and if we don't meet it, then that's a one metrics. Progress towards that commitment, how are we doing, how much variance is, and then how we are taking care of those variances. That could be another set of matrices I can focus on.
Okay. Yeah. So both business and the team, like the work level, right?
Yeah, work level, but work level more focused on meeting the business objective and commitments rather than focusing on what was the velocity, how many defects we got, and how many story points we have delivered, or how many time we have achieved the sprint goal. So all these matrices could be a Scrum Master and team matrices. They should focus on that. But my focus more is that we committed to make a release after 2 months with these
Okay.
features. How are we going towards that? So
Okay.
is there any deviation? And if there is a deviation, then I should work with the team to figure it out. But for me, my focus is whatever I have committed to the stakeholders, my commitments are getting met. And if there are deviations, I am controlling them because my stakeholder will judge me based on that. Yeah, you are meeting your commitments, and I judge my overall effectiveness by seeing that are we producing the desired results. So outcome and predictability. I think that's the two words are easy to identify set of matrices for product owner.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So next questions. I mean, there are some questions like I just tell me about a project that worked well or the other way, like that did not work well. So what is a good framework to answer those questions, like as a product owner role in that?
So it is little tricky that whenever you talk about your failures or the things which were not working well, first thing is that if you say that I don't have an experience of failure, then also it shows that person is not either experienced enough or not open enough. One of these two things are happening. But at the
Right.
same time, whenever the failure story is coming, it should be having a failure, but at the same time, it should also have some good work done, but still you could not succeed. Yeah, so that so it should have a mistake, it should have a reason, but at the
And
same time, it should also show that mistake was beyond your control at some extent, and you have taken a note from it, and going forward, you have a improvement in your approach. So the
okay.
failure should be representing learning, yeah, and I should be able to make that particular story. So I give a context. I talk about the false assumption or the change of event happening, leading
Okay.
to the failure and leading me to learn that going forward I need to do something differently so that we don't have such kind of issues in future. Yeah. So
Okay.
that kind of thing we can do, but you should match with your profile. So whatever you have explained in your profile, somebody will say,
Uh-huh.
okay, show me in which particular month you were doing that particular project, where you have mentioned this particular project in your profile. So it
Okay.
should not be a hypothetical, purely
Mhm.
hypothetical things. You should be able to relate it quickly.
And so that is about like project that did not work well. So we should all talk about things which are kind of out of our control and how we, can learn from them and take care of it in future. And anything specific like when to talk about a project that worked well, how to highlight like
So
what
in
something
general,
about
in
me
general,
that
when
yeah.
you focus on success, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
try not to focus too much on that I did this, I did this, I did this. Yeah, then
Okay.
also it make the person suspicious that okay, if you were so great, then like why are you talking to us? Probably, yeah. So I need to focus more on how the collaboration, engagement, dynamics, and environment worked such a manner so we could produce the result. And I was basically played a role on alignment and integration. So I
Okay.
should not be too much like I solved this problem. I made the developer work more productive, and I this I this. So that rather than that, so you can say that this was a project. The basic learning is that we were doing very collaborative review of our backlog. We were doing frequent deliveries. We were having
Okay.
customers and stakeholders who were very open, and I was
Mhm.
always providing a channel for listening. And we had a team which was getting clear understanding of our project objectives. So they were motivated to see the project succeeding in the market. So we create a direct connect between project results and the team feedback. So they were also getting intrinsic motivation to make things successful. My role is I made things happen. I make things transparent. So if there was a success in the market, I made sure the team is aware of it and team feel good about it. I made sure that whenever the product is, even small portion of the product is ready, we worked with a stakeholder to evaluate it and if possible, give it to the end customers as well. So I show my that part of the work, but at the same time, I keep appreciating great team, great stakeholder, great feedback, great market opportunity, and all these things came together and we produced the result.
Okay. Yeah. And then, so another question is, how will you prioritize the product backlog, assuming all of the items are high priority items? So, I mean, I was asked this question in one of the interviews. So, I mean, I started saying like I will talk to stakeholders like which one is higher priority, but then the interviewer asked like, no, assume everything is high priority to them. So how will you prioritize it then? Like, so the Moscow method and all will not come into
Yeah.
picture, right? Because
So
it's
Moscow
all
will not
must-have.
come.
Yeah.
So starting here, so say the Moscow kind of prioritization can be used
Mhm.
at a high categorization level. So for example, I have 100 product backlog item and I want to
Mhm.
create a bucket of 20, 40, 30 like this. So I can use
Right.
Moscow at a high level and
Right.
identify which 10, 20 goes into must have, which 10, 20 go into should have and could have and won't have. So that's a high level thing. But
Yeah.
when I am targeting the next sprint, I may
Right.
have 5 items and all are coming from must have. Yeah, those are
Right.
5 items and all are must have. So
Yeah.
we need to understand the overall context. Uh, Definitely, we have a limited work in progress. So I can't say do everything and then my team remain
Yes.
confused. If the
Mm-hmm.
business priority is same for all of them, then we understand that there is no use of talking to stakeholder about the priorities because, for example, I have a clarity that all these 10 features will go live together and I can't go live without even a single feature out of these
Mm-hmm.
10, then
Okay.
everything is must have. Yeah. And for
Right.
me, the business priority remains the same. Stakeholder are saying, guys, we need all these 10. We won't go live with the next increment till the time all 10 are not done. Yeah. So that's there. Now the
Mm-hmm.
second opinion comes is, but we can't do all 10 in a one sprint. Okay, then
Right.
what do we do? So we need to see what are the risky items which can help us in discovering and creating a better product and making sure that we are doing right prioritization. We may
Okay.
think about our technical sequence also, which way we
Yeah.
should sequence so that it feed us to deliver things faster. Maybe we create a foundational features first and advance later because that is how we need to do. So the business priorities are same. I need to focus on technical priorities. I need to focus on risk priorities, and I need to focus on the limitation which we have as a capacity because anyway we cannot do 10 features. That's an assumption. If you can do all
Yeah.
10 features, then my job is easy. I will say, guys, do all 10.
Right.
Simple,
Right.
yeah. But when we
Yeah.
have a limitation, then we need to find out the technical sequence or risk mitigation sequence to go forward with it.
Okay. And is it okay to say like where there are lot of unknowns, we pick them first because then we'll have chance more
Yes.
time to
Respond to
address
it.
the issues in
Yes,
case. Yeah.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And
Okay.
another thing is that for a sake of little bit more technical jargon, you can say I have conducted user story mapping workshop with some of the stakeholders for such situations. We understand all of them are important, but we identify the skeleton of our product. We say that we want to do these user stories, so we have at least working skeleton, and then we go for next, and we go for next. So I do
Okay.
user journey map, user story map to have a better understanding, and then we take a technical priorities. But we understand business release will only happen when everything gets done. 10
Yeah.
features, but we still
Okay.
need to do prioritization.
Sure. Okay. Another question is like, what would you do if a specific project is failing or if it won't meet the deadlines?
Project manager question,
Yeah.
because see, but again, depends. So you don't worry too much about it. Maybe somebody asked you, but I don't think such kind of questions coming in a product owner role,
Or role. Okay.
especially for deadlines and all. But you can
Okay.
say that there is a possibility that you have a release goal and you have a technical challenges and you cannot meet the release goal. And because of that, there is a high cost of not meeting the release goal. Yeah. So how possibly you adhere to it? Yeah. So rather than using a word project, you can say release goal. In a release,
Yes.
you have a after 2 months release, and then you have a challenges. So as you probably like most of us, we know it's all about collaboration. There is no ready-made receipt for it. Nobody can say this is how it should work. But
Yeah.
you can bring some example from your profile and says in this project we had such kind of situation sometime And what we did open conversation. And in this particular case, with the help of open conversation, we could find out the common background. Now, if you generally say that we will do open conversation and we'll collaborate, then the person who says the people are not willing to collaborate. Now, what will you do? So then there is no end to it, because if I start answering the hypothetical question by giving definitive answer, then person can keep saying no, 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 and I get confused. I can say, yeah, there could be a situation for this project we were able to do, and it depends upon the case at hand, but there was a situation where we could negotiate. If nothing is working, then we probably get ready for the failure itself, but we try to see where the flexibilities are. There could be a scope flexibility, there could be a timeline flexibility, there could be a money flexibility, we can put more teams, there could be, and these flexibilities usually get discovered when people speak with open mind. And my role as a product owner is to make the people speak as an with an open mind. I can't be able to fix this problem myself, but we can make a collaborative of it. Yeah.
And then the last question on my list is like, how do you build up or your approach to building a product roadmap? So what is a good answer for this?
So see, product roadmap is difficult thing. It is too much aligned to the strategy of the organization, and it is something requiring projecting the investment as well. I can hypothetically say that I want to create a great product, but I need to also figure it out, will this great product really will sell? So it has to start from strategy. Yeah, what is my organization wants to do? And either they have an opportunity in mind, which they want to exploit, or we have a problem which they want to resolve. So with my portfolio group, with my organization strategic group, they need to have a clarity. They talk about that what they want to do, either for exploiting opportunity or resolving the problem. So I need to make sure that I understand the strategy well. After understanding the strategy well, then we need to talk about some of the candidate directions and see what are the market size business case preparation. So we need to see what is the overall business case of it, how much money can really be made. Yeah, we need to have not necessarily detailed, but we need to have a high level understanding why we do it, how much money it will take, and how much expectation we can have in the future. Now, based on the strategic alignment and business case, then we are saying that this is how we can put some of the checkpoints or milestone in between, and that will be our roadmap. So roadmap is a direction of achieving the product vision, which will help me in achieving the strategy. And we are doing that direction because it makes business sense out of it. So once I have a vision aligned with the strategy clear, once I have a business case understanding, which makes logical sense to resolve this, then we talk about various points, various milestones, which will help me in achieving the particular roadmap. Now, in order to identify those milestones, I will see various factors. I will see market events. So say, oh, this year the elections are happening and probably my product is sensitive to election. I need to do something about it. Oh, this is the sometime when the competitor is launching something, we need to do something about it. So it is not just driven by, I have a 10 people team and this 10 people team can do something in 3 months. Let's put a milestone here and says we will do something in 3 months. That could be a one approach, but that's a capacity driven approach. You need to have a market driven and capacity driven approach somewhere merging. So you need to find out the market events. You probably need to also find out market patterns. Market patterns could be that these kind of things are more used in Christmas. So our product should have something for Christmas. So we can say that our business model is like this in a new year in these things. So we have these kind of demands. So we want to make something there. So I think about the market dynamics, I think about technological events, I think about generic event, and then I also marry this with my team capacity, the tentative allocation of number of people to this particular work. And based on these two, I forecast that with these many people, we can do these many user story, and we are targeting this particular milestone to achieve a particular release happening before Christmas. And in order to do that, this will be our first milestone, this will be our second milestone, and this is how we will move forward and we will achieve our product roadmap. Now you propose it, you have a buy-in from it, and then you keep updating. It is not going to be frozen. You, after first release, second release, you have a challenge in your capacity calculation, you have different expectations of the market events. So things will keep changing and you keep adapting to the roadmap and keep re-validating your business case as well. If your business case is not making sense, then product roadmap may be cut short. If the business case is making sense, then your product roadmap may also expand. So all these three things remain related. Strategy, which is driving the vision, and the business case and the roadmap, and then inside the roadmap, market and internal parameter coming together to make a direction. But this is more advanced product management or product ownership topic, more associated with portfolio understanding, because it is a little bit more on business directions as well.
Sure. Yeah. So I think those were the questions I had. I had one more, like, what is a good quality user story? So,
That's
I
the
mean, that's
invest. You can use the invest example to start
investor.
with. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. But be clear to bring the ideas and examples from your project. Yeah. But
Okay.
invest is a good way to say, but also say that good quality user story detailed appropriately. So invest is good for
Mhm.
upcoming iteration user story. You don't need
Okay.
to have all the user stories in at a invest level. You will refine
Oh,
them as you
right.
move forward in your backlog refinement process.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
I think I'm good. Thank you so much,
Great.
Saket.
Yeah. Nice talking. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bye for now.
Bye.